Our last speaker for the evening, John Cullingham, is the CEO and founder of Sequoia Superannuation. He's managed over $1 billion of funds under administration. Just had his first baby girl, and there's no doubt she's probably up watching him on live stream as we speak right now. Very knowledgeable young man, a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. He's going to give us a fantastic session of information. So because it is the last speaker of the night, we want to generate some energy and some enthusiasm in the room. Can we just get on our feet, maybe get some music going, and please put our hands together for John Cullingham. Come on, make some noise for him. Let's raise the energy in the room.
Wow, so I always get so humbled when people are standing up to welcome someone to talk to them about superannuation. It's not exactly the most exciting of topics. I love it, but not everybody does. You love super?
You guys just signed me up there.
Oh, perfect. Well, there you go. Fantastic. So, last speaker of the night, probably go for about 25 to 30 minutes, and then we can all go home, tuck ourselves into bed, and think about what I've spoken to you about tonight, no doubt. So, welcome. What I am going to speak to you, though, primarily about is superannuation and self-managed super funds. Who here has an SMSF already? 1, 2, a couple of people in the room. Yeah, 3 over there. Saw you there in the mirror. So what I want to speak to you about tonight is superannuation in general and SMSFs. But first and foremost, who am I? Who's Sequoia Superannuation? Well, Sequoia obviously isn't a 21st century company. We have been invited by 21st Century and have had a long affiliation with 21st Century to help their clients in one way or another in this particular circumstances to help them with their super. Sequoia tree. Has anyone ever seen a sequoia tree? Yeah, you have? Do you know where they are? Where are they found? In the United States. In the United States, they're the giant ones. Yeah, has China got the giant ones? They've got the giant ones as well. We actually, if you have a look at this tree, this was out of the National Geographic. I think that's a pointer. And you have a look at this branch here, and then have a look at that. This is the size of the tree, just to give you an idea. So you zoom in, there's some people standing, hanging in that tree there. They're absolutely massive. So we went over to the United States last weekend, actually. The team at the back, we've got Sydney and Sam, and Marcel's here somewhere as well. And we went over there and went over there for Warren Buffett's annual Berkshire Hathaway conference. Has anyone heard of that before? Yeah, a few people. Massive event. Warren Buffett, as Josh mentioned before, famous investor. So we went over there for the weekend, drove and did a bit of sightseeing. We went and saw, these aren't the giant sequoia trees, but that's a bit of the team there, and had a look. And so sequoia is obviously, the whole idea is growing from something small into something massive. We are listed on the ASX, so if you want to buy shares in Sequoia, you can. MWS is the stock code. We have over 400 shareholders, about $1 billion in funds under admin, and approximately 4,000 clients. So we're quite a big company these days. We've been growing. We've got about 40 odd staff now across all the companies, so it's growing pretty quickly. Who am I? I'm the CEO and one of the founding shareholders of Sequoia Superannuation. Bachelor of Commerce Law from the ANU. Financial advisor and a derivatives advisor as well. So that's just a bit about me. Get the boring stuff out of the way. So this tonight is just going to be a power session. I know it's tiring, it's late, and I'm the last speaker, and you probably all want to go home. But what I want for you guys to know, and what I want you to take home, is just one point. I don't care which point it is that I talk about in this presentation, but if you can do yourself any sort of justice for waiting up this extra half an hour to see me speak, it's just to write down one important point that you think will help yourself. That's all I want you to do. That's all I ask from you from tonight, is that you take one point, because you're putting in the effort. So a wake-up call is what I'm going to go through first, a few stats and statistics. 2 simple ways to get more money into super. These 2 ways anybody can use. You don't need a self-managed super fund. I'm then going to talk to you about discussion points about self-managed super funds, because that seems to be the easiest way to get the questions asked that are most often answered, which are most often asked. And how to set up a self-managed super fund. So we're going to try and knock this all over in 25 minutes. Does that sound good to everybody? Perfect. All right, 25 minutes. Here we go. Take action. Disclaimer. Boring. We have to do it. Sequoia superannuation. If you have a look down here, it's probably the most important part. We're licensed under Australian Financial Services Licence to provide general advice, which means none of this in these slides tonight will take into account your personal situation. It's general advice only. So I need to go over that. If you want to get a copy of that slide, just let me know. So some stats. Population. Who knows what the population is? Just shout it out if you want to have a guess. Yeah, that could be it. This was the latest stat I got, 23 million. So I wouldn't say you're wrong either. This is just the one I got off Google. But I'm actually taking this, I'm not from Google, this is from the intergenerational report that the Australian government released in December last year. Does anyone here watch YouTube? Yep, who watches YouTube? Have you seen Dr. Carl come on at the start of the ads with his flashy, yeah, we've got one person nodding there, he's got all these bright coloured clothes and he goes through all the numbers. What's that, sorry? Yeah, they're cool pants. So these are where these figures come from. Current population, 23 million. And what it talks about is where we're going to be in the year 2055, so 30 years from now. Population will be about 40 million in 2055. So that's a pretty big jump. That's about an 80% increase from where we are now. Here's an interesting stat. Those aged 100 or more. In 1974, there were 122 people aged over 100. In 2055, they reckon there's going to be 40,000 people aged over 100. The Queen, or who will it be then? King William, is going to get a sore hand writing all these letters, isn't he? 40,000. This is probably, I think, the most interesting stat, and it's going to lead into a lot of other parts of my presentation. Young people supporting those aged 65 and over. So people between the ages of 15 and 64 supporting those that are over 65. So in 1974, there were 7.3 people aged between 15 and 64 for every person aged 65 and over. Does that make sense? Yeah? Right now, there is 4.5 people. So 4.5 people aged between 15 and 64, their taxes support everyone over the age of 65. In 2055, there'll be 2.7 people for everybody aged over the age of 65. That's a scary stat. How the hell are we going to pay for all those old people that are going to be kicking around looking for handouts from the government? You're going to have to start to take some action yourself and look after your own future. The government is not going to be able to support it. Something has to give. We can't keep this gravy train of money pouring out to all these people. We're going to have 40,000 people over 100. So the point of these slides is, one, procrastination is a silent killer. You've got to do something. But if you don't do something, don't rely on the government, because they're probably not going to be there for you when half this room hits their preservation age or their retirement age, which will probably be about 70 by the time we get there. So the big question is, how much do you need to retire? It's good. Anyone want to have a stab at how much they want to earn per year? What they think would... A lot more than what we do now? That's probably a good answer. Well, there's actually some stats done on it. I'm a stats man. We're in superannuation. We're boring as they come, but there are stats. Probably the most important from this slide, on this slide here, it talks about the costs that an average person can expect to pay. So for housing, energy, food, clothing, health, transport, leisure. It was from the Association of Australian Super Funds in December. So to live a comfortable lifestyle, you'll need to earn about $800 per week. This is when you own your own house as well. That's for a single. For a couple, you need to earn about $1,000 a week. So two of you combined, $57,000 to live comfortably. Or if you want to live a modest lifestyle, you're looking at about 33 grand per year for a couple or 23 grand for a single. It's not a lot of money. So what I want to talk to you about is this. How much do you get from the age pension? I know Josh touched on this previously before. It's a bit of a topic at the moment in government, obviously. For singles, you're getting about $383 per week off the age pension. Now, if we go back here, to live comfortably, we need $808. 303 you get from the pension, 383 or 808. That's a massive difference to live comfortably. Don't expect to, even if you can get the pension, don't expect to live comfortably off it. For couples, it's $577 per week, about 30 grand per annum. How old do you need to be to access the age pension? 65? Yeah, it changes. It's in a sliding scale at the moment, but it's mostly 65. Rising to 67 by 2023. And then the Liberal government last year tried to push it up to 70, but it didn't get passed through the Senate. So what's happening here all the time is that it's trying to get squeezed. People are trying to squeeze, the government's trying to cut back on the amount of pension you can access. How many people, can access the pension. So this is just a very quick one on a budget announcement. Who's been reading the newspapers about the budget? What an exciting budget that was. Oh gosh, there wasn't much in that at all. But this was one thing that was quite topical, and it was changes to the age pension. What the government's done is that there used to be a bracket here where if you earned below a certain amount, you got paid the full amount of the pension. And then if you had assets below a certain amount, you got the full amount of the pension. And then it slowly, gradually phased out up until you got a certain amount. And up here you got nothing. So you got full amount down there. What the government now has done is that they've raised this bar a little bit more to give it a little bit more juice down the bottom, but cut this one down significantly. So that's what all the talk in the budget is about. So if you've got, I'll go through a quick example here, but if you've got this amount in disposable assets, not including your family home, you can get the full amount of the pension. If you've got this amount, you'll get about half of it. If you've got above this amount, you get nothing. So there's a bit of a loophole here, though, that we've picked up on. So the bottom end, this bottom end is 202 grand. That was previously. So 202 grand, it's now gone up to 240, if I can make that work. Yep. Okay, so top end is 775, so that top line is 775. And then the next line down now, it has gone up to 250. And the top one is 547, so that's a massive drop. So they've really tightened that band on who can get access to the age pension. So it goes back to my original point. It's so unlikely. It's going to come closer and closer. There's going to be less people that are going to be able to access this pension. So time to take some control. Where there's a bit of a loophole here is through an interesting example. Warren is 65. He owns a $1.5 million house in Sydney. Pretty common these days to own a $1.5 million house. Not so much in super, no other assets or cash. He's considering downsizing and buying a $900,000 down the coast of Batemans Bay and using 600 grand to buy a pension. Makes sense? You've got $1 million house, $1.5 million house. You want to sell it, you want to downsize, pretty standard for that to happen. You buy a $900,000 house and you've got 600 grand left over in cash to invest it and get a return on it to pay for your lifestyle and your income. If he can get 3%, which is about a term deposit rate at the moment, he'll earn $18,000 per year. And he will not be entitled to the government pension because he falls above, his disposable assets are higher than this line now. So here's a bit of a counterintuitive twist on these new laws that the government's as looking to pass through the Senate. You upsize your downsizer. I came up with that. Buy a $1.3 million house instead of a 900 grand house. If he does that, it leaves him 200 grand in private assets, i.e. cash, so he falls in under this line. He'll get the government-based pension of about 20 grand per year. Who likes that trade better than the first trade? Yeah. Instead of living in a 900 grand house and only earning 18 grand per year out of his own money, he's living in a $1.3 million house and earning 20 grand off the government. So that's a good little one that you guys can write down and use. But so you upsize your downsizer. So that's just a bit of education there for you. So whenever there's rules brought out, always look for another way to get around them because that's what they're there for. How much do we need in our super? Now I'm going to skip through this one pretty quickly because I've only got about 10 to 15 minutes left. But who lives longer, men or women? Women. Why? Who wants to have a go at that one? Who's game? There's 107 boy babies born for every 100 girls in Australia. By the time we're about 35, we're about even. Boys and girls are about even at the age of 35. So here's a couple of examples of why I think so. Look at this boy. This is some of the examples as why boys live longer than women. Women live longer than guys. How about that guy? Oh, here we go. Oh, this fella. Here's another one. These guys are just having some lunch under a tractor, as you do. There's one for the boys. And this is my favourite. How about this guy just mowing his hedge? I love it. It's so good. So next, simple maths. I'm going to go through this very quickly just so I can get on to the more exciting stuff. If you've got an average life expectancy of 82, we're assuming a 5% return. Comfortable lifestyle we know is 57 grand. Oops, sorry, I'm just not getting very good on this clicker. You'll need to have, how much we need to have in super at age 65 to get that sort of return. If you want to draw that between the age of 65 and 82, there is how many years? 17, yeah. So in that period between then and now and then, you'll need to have about 650 grand combined in your super to pull out 57 grand per year in your retirement and live that and die at the age of 82, which is average life expectancy at the moment. It's not, that's a lot, but it's not, if you've got time and make savvy investment decisions, you can easily get there. So, how do you get this sort of money into super? Time and being a savvy and disciplined investor. Two simple ways to get more money into super are the contribution rules. Has anyone here not heard of the contribution rules? Be honest. There are quite a few people in the room don't know the contribution rules. These are if you're going to take, I know you're going to promise me 1 point that you want to take home tonight. This is going to be one of the easy ones to remember because everyone in this room can do these 2 points. Salary sacrifice. How much can you put into super before your employer takes tax out? Is what a salary sacrifice means. So let's say you're at 100 grand per year, your employer already puts in 10 grand per year of super. You can instruct your employer to put more money into super before tax. Why would you want to do that? Pay less tax. Superannuation is a tax paradise. What's the tax rate in super? 15. 15% is, 15% is generally the superannuation tax rate. So if you're earning 100 grand per year, you're pretty much paying 36.5%, 40% in tax. If you only have to pay 15% tax, do you think that's a good outcome on that extra money? Absolutely it is. You know, on 10 grand, if you're paying 15% tax, that's $1,500. Normally you'd be paying about 3 or 4 grand. So you're saving about 1,500 to 2 grand per year in tax. So that is a no-brain return there for you, if you can afford to do it. So the disadvantages of doing it, so you can put up to about 30 to 35 grand into your super. What are the disadvantages of doing a salary sacrifice? What's the key disadvantage of doing a salary sacrifice? Less cash flow. The money goes away until you retire. You can't touch that money until you've reached your preservation age. But if you're in that age bracket where you've got a bit of excess cash flow and you're willing to put that into your super, it is a dead set no-brainer. It is the biggest gift you'll ever get from the government, is being able to salary sacrifice into your super. Here's a quick example. If you're 40, you have nothing in super, you earn 120 grand per year, and your salary sacrifice at 15 grand, including your 9.5% per annum. So your employer is putting in about 11 grand there, and you're putting in an extra 4 grand per year. And you earn approximately 5% on that money. Where will you end up at the age of 65? By not doing that extra salary sacrifice, you're going to have 247 grand in your super. By doing it, an extra $325 per month before tax, you're going to have 334 grand. That's the power. That is the huge advantage of getting money into super because the tax rate's so low. That's why the government restricts you to only being able to put 30 grand into your super, because they know how much of an awesome tax environment super is. That's why the government's always trying to hone in on it and cut back people's people's access to superannuation benefits and lower tax rates. The other way to do it, the second way to get more money into super is after-tax contribution. So money that you've already paid tax on that's in your wallet right now. If you've got $50 in your wallet right now, that is an after-tax dollar in your pocket. You can put that money into your super fund. Why would you want to put that money into your super fund? Tax. All super is just, all a superannuation fund is just a restricted tax environment where you get much better tax rates than you do in your personal name. Anyone want to have a guess how much you can put into super after tax, out of your back pocket? 180 grand per year. So you can really whack a lot in there. So if you're at that age where you're starting to think about your retirement a lot more seriously and you've got a bit of cash lying around, putting money into super can often be a very good idea because you're getting a huge chunk of money that you otherwise just be investing in the bank or some other asset. You can do it through your super fund And if you retire in 10 to 15 years' time, guess how much the tax is in your super once you retire? Zero. Amazing. It's bloody incredible. This is why people love super, is because the tax is so exciting in super. Is everyone feeling it? Yeah. Yeah. 180 grand. Bring forward rule. If you've got a heap of money, you can actually pull in 540 grand in 1 year as well. Between the two of you, if you've got a self-managed super fund, you can double that. So about 1.1 million or so. All right. So that was the lecturing part. Now I want to go on to the more exciting stuff purely about self-managed super funds. I think I've got about 5 or 10 minutes left. Who wants to have a go at explaining a self-managed super fund in one sentence? Anyone? Anyone game to have a go? Yeah? Yeah? I did. I said to say, want to have a guess at repeating it? Or that's all right, I can repeat it. You look after it. Yeah, yeah, exactly right. You self-manage it, 100%. The technical difference between a REST super fund or Australian super fund or an AMP super fund is that in those super funds, you have different trustees to the members. So if you've got a self-managed super fund, it'll look something like this. You'll have an SMSF down here, and you'll have a corporation as a trustee, Pty Limited, and you'll have a director sitting up here, who is you, and you'll have a member sitting down here, who is you as well. In REST, you'll have about 1 million guys in here, and you'll have 1 or 2, or probably about 10 trustees sitting up here, but which are not you. So the trustees make the decisions through to the members. So the difference between an SMSF and a normal super fund is that the member is also the trustee who makes the investment decision. So that's the technical explanation of what a self-managed super fund is. So that's what an SMSF is. SMSF's obviously a flavour of the month at the moment. They've been very popular over the last 5 or 6 years. You can see some stats there, which you can have a read while I'm talking about these other points. But how many members can an SMSF have? 4, correct. Do you have to be related to each other? No, you don't. So if you have a brother, and their 2 best friends, they can put together a super fund, combine their assets and other. The reason you may want to do that is to get more money into your SMSF. It makes the cost cheaper. To run an SMSF costs about 2 grand per year, thereabouts. If you've got 100 grand in there, 2 grand per year is 2%. If you've got $1 million in there, it's 0.2%. So the more money you get into super, the cheaper the fees come relatively. So you can have up to 4 members. So if you've got 50 grand, your brother's got 50 grand, your wife's got 50, and your friend's got 50, you can have a super fund with 200 grand. You can do a lot more buying. You can buy a lot cooler assets with 200 grand than you could with 50 grand. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people do it. What sort of investments can you buy? Let's throw out some ideas here. Property. You can buy property, the SMSF. Property. Shares. Options. Can you buy land options? Yes. Yeah, you can. Land and equity options.
Commodities like gold and silver.
Correct. Commodities. Bonds.
Estate.
Estate? Like a land estate or a...
Estate like jewellery.
Oh, jewelry. Collectibles, they're called? Collectibles, yeah. You can buy cars, collectibles, something like that. Bullion, foreign exchange. The list goes on. You can pretty much buy anything in your SMSF. Does anyone know what the golden rule is of what you can buy in your SMSF? Has to be for the benefit of your retirement. It's called the sole purpose test. And I'm going to play a quick 2-minute video right now about what the sole purpose test is. And it'll show it up here. This one's actually from the ATO website. If we can get it going. I'm sure we will eventually.
So you're thinking of purchasing property through your self-managed super fund. Well, you need to consider the sole purpose test. What's that, you're wondering? Well, basically, it means you need to run your fund for the sole purpose of providing super benefits for your members when they retire. The simple rule is, anyone related to a self-managed super fund must not use its assets. This is Bob. Bob's fund purchased a holiday house so that Bob's family could use it each summer and rent it out the rest of the time. That means they're receiving a benefit from this asset. Bob's auditor reports to the ATO that Bob's fund has breached the sole purpose test. The ATO can make the fund non-complying, which means it could lose almost half its assets. And Bob may be disqualified as a trustee, meaning he can't continue with his self-managed super fund or start a new one. Bob may also be fined up to $10,200, which he would have to pay out of his own pocket. Bob's retirement plans, well, they aren't really going to plan. Bob should have followed Kelly's example. Kelly speaks to her advisor before making investment decisions. She learns that her fund can purchase a holiday house, just as long as Kelly and anybody related to the fund do not use it. Kelly listens to this advice, and no contraventions are found by her auditor. The holiday house provides a steady return over the years, so Kelly's plan for a comfortable retirement is looking good. The sole purpose test applies to all investments, including collectible items such as artwork, jewellery and cars. So before making any investment decisions, ask yourself, what's the purpose of this investment? If the purpose is solely to provide retirement benefits to members, great. But if it's to immediately benefit members or anyone related to the fund, you should skip that investment. For more information, check out our other videos or visit the ATO website at www.
Pretty nicely there, doesn't it? Does anyone have any questions from that? No? Yep.
People are going in at different ages. Like I said, an older, like parents or an older partner or something, and then there's a younger.
Yep.
How does that work?
So the question was, if you've joined your SMSF with more than one member, and the ages are quite a large amount apart, let's say 20 years. Yeah, say 20 years apart. That can cause issues down the track. We've got a fair few funds that do have members that are of much bigger age groups. The issue I see being it is that you've got different investment objectives when you've got someone that's 30 and someone that's 60. So the one that's 30 is probably a lot more aggressive than the person that's 60. Generally in an SMSF, all your assets are pooled together in one big clump. And then how it works at the back end is the accounting side of it, is that you all get a proportion of the gains or the losses depending on the portion of the amount that you put in. So if you've got a 30-year-old and a 60-year-old, and the 60-year-old is all in cash earning 3%, and the 30-year-old with what he thinks is his allocation puts it all in a high-geared investment and loses a whole lot, they both lose 50% each. So that's how that part works. You can segregate the SMSF though. You can segregate it, and to have it, what that means is that each asset in the SMSF is clearly identifiable to that member. So you could have the 60-year-old in there with the term deposits, and you can have the 30-year-old in there doing their own part of it too. So the disadvantages of segregation is that it often is a lot more, not a lot more expensive, but probably about $500, $800 more per year to do the segregations. Also from an administrative side of things, everything has to be designated to that member. So you open up a Macquarie or a bank account, it would be designated to that member, designated to the super fund with some sort of tag in it to put it that it's for that member. So you can do it. It is an issue, but it can be overcome with segregation. Yep. Yeah.
So on the sole purpose test, if it does provide you retirement, but then you're also getting benefits at the same time, that wouldn't pass?
No, it wouldn't. So if you're getting any sort of personal benefit from the investment in your SMSF right now, an example would be, let's say you bought some Van Gogh paintings for your super fund, and you decided that you wanted to hang them up in the foyer of your parents' house because your parents like Van Gogh. You or a related party cannot get any sort of benefit from those paintings. By you looking at those paintings means you're getting a personal benefit before you retire. So if you do buy paintings, for example, that'd have to be, you can lease them to an art gallery, for example, so they're unrelated, so you can put them into an unrelated house, or you put them into a safe storage off-site. So what were you thinking? Did you have an idea in mind, or were you?
Yeah, possibly a business with a friend.
Yeah, you couldn't do that, no. You can't, that's one of the other rules of an SMSF, you cannot run a business through your SMSF. Yeah, so that's definitely getting a personal benefit from it now. There's probably the other second golden rule, which I'm not going to go into tonight because it gets very technical, is the related party rules, the actual rules around related party and how much control and ownership you can have of another business entity before it gets illegal to do it through your SMSF. So there's a lot of rules around that area. But if you think you're going to get a personal benefit from it and you're not at the age of 60 or 65, just check with your advisor or just don't do it. Just skip away from it because you will find yourself in trouble. Now, the next one I think I've got is, can I buy property through an SMSF? Can I gear it? Yeah, you can. You can still gear it. There was a bit of noise in the news about 6 months ago whether or not they were going to ban limited recourse loans or borrowing in an SMSF. We thought we might get a sniff of it in Tuesday night's budget, but we didn't. So at the moment, you can. You can still buy property and gear it through your SMSF. Not just property being shares or anything else that you can apply a loan to, you can still do that through your SMSF. What types? I guess you can do apartments, you can do land, you can do houses, you can do townhouses, you can pretty much do any type of property that you like. You can do farms. Can I buy a property from a related party? Here's a tricky question. Yes or no? No? Have we got any yeses? The answer is yes and no. You can buy property from a related party if it is commercial property. So if it's a fish and chip shop that you own in your own name, your SMSF can buy it from you, but it must be at commercial rates, market rate. You cannot buy an investment property that you own down at the South Coast from your super fund cannot buy an investment property off yourself personally or off a related party, even if it is at market rates. So there's a key distinction in related parties. There's one exception to the related party rules, and that's when it's commercial property. Can I rent to a related party? No and yes. So long as if it's commercial property, you can. So if I own the fish and chip shop in my super fund, I could pay my self-managed super fund rent, and I could work out of the fish and chip shop. If that makes sense, because it's commercial property. But if my self-managed super fund owns the apartment on the Gold Coast or out in wherever it is that you buy an investment property, you cannot rent it off your SMSF, even if it's at commercial rates. Neither can a related party. Was anyone watching the video? Can I buy a holiday house? Yes, very well. Very good. You can, but you just can't rent it to a related party member. Can I borrow in my SMSF? Yes, the answer is yes, we covered that. How much do the banks generally lending? Yeah, about 70 to 80%. 80% is the most. I've only seen a few of them go through. They usually would take a pretty strict serviceability test. So you usually find they give to you about 65 to 70. How much tax do I pay on rent in my SMSF? 15%. If you've got an investment property in your own name and the rent's coming in, you pay your marginal rate of tax. In your super fund, you pay 15%. What if you've got a property in your super fund and you've retired? How much do you pay when the rent comes in tax? 0. Bang, you got it right there. 0%. 0. That's exciting. Who wants to earn 0%? Who wants to pay 0% tax on money they earn? Yeah, hell yeah. 0% tax is unheard of. You know, that's the most amazing tax structure in Australia is a super fund. How much if you're in pension phase, no, let's say you're in accumulation phase, you're 45 and you bought a property in your super fund and you sell it and you've held that property for more than 12 months, how much tax do you pay? 10%. You get a discount. Similar to the discount you get when you sell a property, investment property in your own name, they give you a capital gains tax discount. In your SMSF, they also give you a discount of 33% instead of 50%. So, correct, yeah. So if you bought the property for, say, 100 grand and you sold it for 200, you've got 100 grand of gain, you'd pay 10 grand in tax and keep 90 grand in your SMSF.
So you don't get any reduction if you're holding the asset for more than 12 months?
Correct. If you sell it within 12 months, you pay 15%. If you hold it for more than 12 months, you only pay 10. So it's that same 12-month rule that applies.
Capital gains tax.
Correct, capital gains tax. capital gains tax. So revenue tax or income tax in your SMSF is always 15% in the accumulation phase. Capital gains tax has got a small discount if you hold the asset for more than 12 months. In pension phase, we all know we pay how much? Zero. So, what's involved in setting up an SMSF? We've got 1 2-minute video to go, and then a short finish, and then we're done. But if you wouldn't mind just playing that second video, that'd be great.
So you're thinking about starting your own self-managed super fund. That's great. But are you aware of what's really involved? Let's take a quick look at a typical self-managed super fund. When you first set up, you need to decide on fund members and trustees, establish the trust and trust deed, set up a bank account, register with the ATO, create your investment strategy, and include a plan for when your SMSF ends. There's more to consider once set up, including rolling over of existing super, organising employer contributions, accepting contributions within limits, making investments without breaking rules, regularly reviewing the investment strategy, and documenting and maintaining records for up to 10 years. Then, each year, you need to value assets, prepare accounts and financial statements, appoint a registered self-managed super fund auditor, lodge the annual return, pay the self-managed super fund levy and any tax that's due. When you start making payments, you need to decide if any assets need to be sold, ensure minimum payments are met each year, and you may also need to appoint an actuary, withhold tax, and give payment summaries to members as well as the ATO. Finally, when the fund is finished, you need to get a final audit and lodge your final return. Plus, you'll also need to pay any outstanding tax and pay out or roll over all of the assets. As you can see, there is a lot involved. Before you decide to start a self-managed super fund, you need to consider whether you can manage everything or whether you are prepared to pay self-managed super fund professionals to help. But remember, even if you have professionals help, SMSF trustees are ultimately responsible for their fund. You may want to seek some professional advice to help you decide if a self-managed super fund is right for you. For more SMSF information, take a look at our other videos.
Probably one of the best marketing videos the ATO has ever done for people like me. It's very clear, it's very succinct. There is a lot to be done as an SMSF trustee, but that's where, obviously, that's where we come into it. We're the SMSF professionals that the ATO was talking about. So what we do, what sets us apart, we're a full-service SMSF admin firm. We're also ongoing education called the Informed Trustee. So each month we release information for trustees that is of educational value. For example, in the pack that we've got at the back of the room, we've got our latest one just on a budget update. It's just an example of some ongoing education that we give. We're also all licensed, which is very different to most accountants or anyone else that you speak to. Being licensed means that we can not only give you information on self-managed super funds, but we can also give you other investment advice as well. Online trading and reporting, which is rare. All our data feeds from all your trading accounts link onto one central hub. Ongoing administration services. We collect all your mail. We do all that work that the ATO was talking about in that little webinar. Prepare your financials. We do all that, and structuring for buy property in your super. So that's what Sequoia Superannuation does. I've got a deal for you tonight. If you take a pack and book a meeting for tomorrow, we've got Sam, Sydney, Marcel. I'll be there tomorrow as well. We'll be there from probably about 9 till whenever we need to be. If you book a meeting in for tomorrow, and if you decide within a week, so speak to people, go home and have a think about it, that you want to set up, or move your administration of your current SMSF to Sequoia, we'll shout you a $200 favourite restaurant voucher to whatever restaurant you want. So that's the deal. So just to get you moving, just to take some action. It's not going to change your life. $200 dinner, well, it might if you're on Rocky Road with your wife, but it might be worth a look. But I should take one for my wife. But if you come in and have a chat to us, I mean, the whole reason why we do it is that we're here for 21st century clients. Use us. We don't really mind if you do sign up or not. It's just we want you guys to be educated and find out what you want to do yourself. So use the services we've got. Once I've finished in about 30 seconds, if you like, go up to the back of the room. We've got an office on Blythe Street in Sydney. If you can't make it tomorrow to catch up with one of us, drop us an email and just come in and see us, or we can do it over the phone as well. So that's it. That's all I want to do. Keep calm and enjoy your night.